All right, so elevator. First time I've seen you here says a happy Tuesday. Yes, indeed it is a happy Tuesday. So let's start off this stream with this video that sort of inspired what I put in the thumbnail. Now, interestingly enough, what I have in the thumbnail has Derek Chisora and Deontay Wilder's fight poster for this weekend, right? Now, what's significant about that? Obviously, what is significant about that is the fact that if you look at the thumbnail, okay, I'm going to show you the thumbnail right now, okay? If you look at the thumbnail and you look at the fight poster, rather, it has London, okay, the London Tower falling apart, and then you have the Statue of Liberty falling apart. Okay, so I thought that was quite interesting. Okay, that you got this type of dynamic going on. And then I ran across an Andrew Tate video where he talks about the inflation that is going on right now, and I want you to take a look at this just to kind of understand in context what I'm talking about. And then everybody on the chat right now, please write on a comment section below what you think about this particular topic, and let's get on with it. Okay.
It's so much worse than you think it is, and I'm going to tell you why. Inflation is so much worse than you think it is, and I'm going to tell you why. The primary reason it's so much harder to live is not because the currency's devalued, it's not because everything's more expensive, it's because the standard which is expected or which is required for you to have a life worth living has gone up exponentially. 10 or 15 years ago, you could have a normal, nice house next to the bad neighborhood, and you'd be safe. Your children would be okay. Your woman could walk around at night. As soon as the sun went down, she didn't have to hide and cower with an AK-47. But nowadays, the nice neighborhood next to the bad neighborhood is also a bad neighborhood because society is decaying. So you have to live in the best neighborhood, meaning it is extremely expensive to live there. That is the true inflation, not the price of the house. Not the fact that the dollar's devalued, the fact that you need to be able to afford such expensive things to have the life you previously had on a fraction of the budget. To be safe, you must live in the best possible, most expensive, ultra-exclusive millionaire enclaves. That is the only way you are safe to walk around without a firearm.
You know what? He is 100% correct. Andrew Tate is 100% correct about everything that he had just mentioned right now. 100% correct. I'm going to tell you why, okay? Number one, you got to understand. You have to understand that I was never a materialistic person. Never. You know what I mean? But you can't ignore what is going on in the world today, okay? He is absolutely right. You have to live way beyond just the normal average person that makes six figures, right? Because quite frankly, that type of figure right now in today's world is just not enough. That's just the reality of it. You can't get by with that. People who live within those six-figure means are actually struggling as well, right? That's the harsh reality of today's world. So what do you have to do? You got to get on YouTube. You got to make some extra cash. You got to hope that you make it in YouTube. You have to be a big channel in YouTube, okay, to live way beyond, let's say, what the average person is living under, right? By the way, guys, excuse me, I'm coming off of, a really bad fever, so I hope you guys, don't mind. But anyways, not that you guys could tell by any means, just wanted to put it out there just in case, I come across as a little bit slower than usual. Human Made says, early predictions, Khamzat will submit Sean Strickland in the first round via rear naked choke. Wow. Okay, that's a very, very brave prediction, but at the same time, I understand where that prediction is coming from. I mean, it's not like he hasn't done it in the training room, right? It's not like he hasn't submitted Sean Strickland multiple times in the training room, so how different is it going to be in the cage, where it matters the most? All right, let's get back to Top G right here.
And that is the true cost of inflation. It's the same with everything. It's the same with even showing off. I remember back in the day, if someone's parents, 10, 15 years ago in England, if someone's parents shopped in Waitrose, We'd say, wow, his parents shop in Waitrose. He's got Waitrose food. They're rich. If their dad drove a BMW or you knew someone with a BMW, they were considered a successful, rich, wealthy man. Now nobody gives a shit if you have a BMW. A BMW means nothing. For you to turn the same number of heads you would have turned in a 45,000-pound Porsche Cayman 15 years ago. For you to drive down the street and be considered the same level of winner for 45,000 pounds in a Porsche Cayman in 2010, you now need to drive a Koenigsegg Jesko or a Bugatti Chiron for 5 million pounds. I had a Cayman. I'm talking from experience. In 2010, I drove a Porsche and was considered a winner. Everyone used to talk about my Porsche. The entire city did. All the girls used to look. It was a big deal. And now, in Bucharest, Romania, the poorest country in Europe, I drive a $5 million car and get the same level of attention. That is the inflation. The inflation is not the 45,000 pounds or the 5 million pounds. The inflation is for you to attract the same amount of social recognition, the same amount of status that you used to get for 50 grand now costs 5 million. For you to get the same amount of safety you used to get for a $200,000 house now costs 2 million because you need a $2 million house. Everything is decaying at a rate now where it's become ultra expensive to compete at all. Inflation is so much worse than you think.
So, in other words, get rich or die trying. That is the name of the game right there, right? Speaking of get rich or die trying, obviously there is a fight going on this weekend. Well, there's fights going on every weekend, but this in particular with Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora. Okay, now this is like literally the last chance for these two to obtain some kind of greatness or maintain whatever it is that they have going on. Man, I've got to tell you, I'm pretty stoked for this fight with Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora. It's a 50-50 fight, literally a 50-50 fight. Check this out, right? These two guys have 50 bouts between them. This is going to be both their 50th bout. Okay, remember Floyd Mayweather stopped his career at 50-0, right? And then just decided to, not go beyond that. When you play Fight Night on Xbox or PlayStation, depending on what your system is, back in the days, right? There was this meter where you're a prospect, you're a club fighter, you're a contender, you're a champion. Now, after a champion, you're a superstar. After you're a superstar, then you become, the greatest of all time. Well, what do you need to get to the greatest of all time? What you need is, you need to have over 50 fights, right? So this is kind of the milestone of where they're at right now. Manriquez says, tie it down. Are you subscribers, Jetties, for a few seconds, then go to sleep in a few seconds before I wake? Okay, a bit of, I don't understand the context of what you are trying to say here. Are you a subscriber? Yeah, please elaborate a little bit more in what you're saying so that I can, communicate with you at a much better level. Yeah, anyways. But yeah, man, I'm pretty stoked for that fight. I think that particular fight is, it's a 50-50 fight, but man, I gotta go with Derek Chisora on this one. I think Derek Chisora has a higher chance of winning this fight, and with good reason, right? With good reason. The reason why I think that he has a good chance of, winning this fight is obviously, not only is he a lot more active than, let's say, Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder was just not looking good with, top level competition. Okay, let me give you an example, right? Deontay Wilder goes in there and he fights, let's take a look at his record right now. He fights that Chinese guy, right? Then he loses. After that fight, Deontay Wilder fights a random nobody, okay, to which he won by decision, okay, but nothing really impressive to say the least, okay? Let's take a look at what I'm talking about here. So the guy's name was Tyrell Anthony Herndon. And then before that, he had 2 back-to-back losses against Zhilei Zhang and Parker. He beat Robert Helenius in the first round, knocked him out. got beat by Tyson Fury twice. Okay, within a span of 2 years, he got beat by Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder twice, for that matter. So, let's see here. Yeah, he's got a win over Gerald Washington, Luis Ortiz. I remember that fight. Oh, yeah, the draw with Tyson Fury back in 2018, only for them to come back and fight each other again 2 years later. So, yeah, man, really interesting stuff going on with this fight, man. But I got to go with Derek Chisora. Let me know what you guys think on the comment section below if you think Deontay Wilder has a chance of winning this fight. I personally don't think he has a chance of winning this fight at all. I think Derek Chisora, well, all right, let's take a look at where Derek Chisora has been in his career right now, okay? Because this is kind of important to understand why I believe he's going to beat Deontay Wilder. Why Deontay Wilder is going to beat why Deontay Wilder is going to get beat by Derek Chisora. Let's take a look at where Derek Chisora has been right now. By the way, shout out to everybody around the world. We got 13 people in here. Go hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get this thing cracking. So Derek Chisora, let's see where he's at right now. Del Boy. Derek Chisora, Del Boy. Okay, so right now when we look at his record, okay, his record right now stands as a 3-fight winning streak, okay? Has a win over Gerald Washington. That's a very good win. Joe Joyce, that's a very good win. By the way, nobody expected him to win that one. And by the way, people were wondering why this fight never happened. Well, this is the reason why, right? The reason why this fight never happened was because you take a look at Derek Chisora's career. You know, he was losing to Alexander Usyk. Then he lost to Joseph Parker twice. He did have a win over Kubrat Pulev. He did lose to Dylan White, but does he have a win over Dylan White? No, I don't think he does. Yeah, no, he doesn't have a win over Dylan White. Yeah, he's got a loss over Dylan White. That was back in 2016. That was when he threw that table at him. So, yeah, man, this was a fight that was that never happened just because they just weren't, you know, in each other's radar, nor did they have the right amount of fights to, you know, sort of bring each other into the table. And let's see, Manchester City. Hold on. Okay, let's. I'm gonna play this face-off between Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora. Yeah, this was about 2 weeks ago.
Just chat, you know, I know when we finish the whole thing today, will be goodbye, I love you, get home safe. I will see you in the next 8 weeks. And then from then, some more friendship. It's just wartime for me, even for him. And then after that, you know what we do, you know, the tradition, we break up the 5 guys.
That's the tradition?
Yeah.
That's tradition. Is that the same for you as well? I mean, you've had fighters opposite you before, and there has been animosity. There's been venom. I've seen it. This is so different.
Yeah.
Is it easy then to switch to that bronze bomber when you are quite cool and relaxed with someone?
It is for me. We are 2 human beings that we can flip it on and we can flip it off, you know what I mean? And when you get people like that in there, they're the most dangerous people in the world because they're unpredictable. And that's what they call us, unpredictable. They don't know what to expect out of us. You don't know we're going to tear it up in here. We want to.
That is true, though. They are very unpredictable people. You know what I'm saying? Very volatile people at that, right? Remember when Deontay Wilder was, you know, saying, yeah, man, you know what, man? You know who I'm talking about? Radio Raheem. You know, they're your people, too. You know, till this day. And obviously, I told you guys about Derek Chisora throwing that dolly, you know, towards Dylan White. That was like 10 years ago.
no security or anything. You had to call the police. Get 6 units. You know what I'm saying? We want to, you know, but it's no need for that. Like you said, over time, as you get older, man, you get more relaxed, you know what I mean? And we never had bad blood anyway, you know what I'm saying? And over time, it do brings a relationship. It brings you closer. And then when you have fights, it brings you even closer, you know? So I think every young fighter, or fighters in general in the business, should take a page out of this book.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys try too hard to sell a fight because they want the asses in the seat. They want to get the best result possible. So sometimes they make up situations. They try to do too much or whatever instead of just going with the flow of things and whatever. And this is what we do. This is all real. This is us. You know what I mean? We don't have to have an animosity. We don't have to look to do things. I don't have to get mad at him. He don't have to get mad at me, you know. But on the night of the fight, that's what all that matters. And at the end of the day, why waste energy in all that back and forth like that? You know, when we can consume our energy, have civilized conversations, interviews, and then on the night of the fight, we release all that energy because we're going to need it. And this is how we look at it.
I think we both know, everyone knows, everyone watching this, that you guys, once you get in the ring, kind of playtime is over. Derek, I feel like you've wanted this fight for a long time. Not just in the last few months when the fight's been spoken about, when you guys were together and did the face-off at the IBA. I feel like you've asked for Wilder for a while. Why?
No, I asked for it a long time ago, and then it didn't happen. And
Toxic Gameplay says, you remind me of the Cushion King, Kanisha the Great. Huh, okay. Let's see who that is you are talking about. Let's see who I remind him of. The Cushion King. Kanisha? Who is that? Let's see who that is. Huh, okay. Kanisha the Great. Wow, alright. Then I take that as a compliment. You know, this dude looks like a complete badass. I could see that, yeah. I could absolutely see that. This is the guy that he's talking about right here. Yep, probably a relative of mine. You know what I mean? That I probably don't know. He basically started and ran the Silk Road. Okay, all right.
I was just looking at the rankings and looking at everything, and we managed to fight. It didn't happen. And then we tried to do it again. It didn't happen 3 times. I think we tried to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't it happen?
Because God didn't want it to happen at that time. There's a reason why. Yeah, God didn't want it to happen at that time.
Well, so they're asking why this fight never happened, right? And I gotta tell you, the reason why this fight never happened is because they just were not in the same trajectory, right? One guy won, the other guy was in a winning streak, the other guy at one point of his career was in a losing streak, and so they never met. Now, with these consecutive wins that Derek Chisora had going on, okay, these consecutive wins that he had going on, from Gerald Washington, which is a fight that he should win. That was back in 2023. Then he beats Joe Joyce. That's not an easy task for anybody. Then beats Otto Wallin, a guy who gave Tyson Fury one of the hardest fights of his career. So now here we are with Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora as a result of it.
Because the contracts were not fair, so it didn't happen. But now the contracts are fair, so it's happening.
You see, when I look at both of your styles, I almost feel like it's just, it's violent. And the idea of both of you wanting that violence almost scares me a little bit, because you're a puncher, and you're a brawler that can punch.
Now that's what makes this fight exciting. You got a brawler, and then you got a puncher, right? That's great, man. That is a recipe for a great fight. A brawler and a puncher. Great matchup.
So ultimately, both of you are going to inflict a lot of pain on each other. And it's funny, I say that, you both kind of smile weirdly, which is kind of, again, kind of crazy to me. Why did you want this fight, Wilder? Again, you had options. You're the former WBC champion. People were running to you. Why are you running to Chisora?
Yeah, like he said before, this thing is supposed to happen a decade ago, you know. And, you know, we just kept running into situations. You know, we serve an on-time God. Things may not come when we want it, but it's always on time. This is the on-time factor of the...
You know what? I like that. I really like that statement that Deontay Wilder just made right now, right? He said that, you know, our God, which is everyone's God, right? We all worship the same God, regardless of whether you're Muslim, Christian, or Jewish, or Zoroastrian, whatever it is, right? We all worship the same God, right? It's the oneness of God that we are dealing with, right? So with that oneness of God, doesn't always come at the time that you wish, right? God doesn't always come at the time that you wish, but he comes right on time. And I think there's a lot of you out there that could relate to that. Shout out to Victory, my man, with the flexing emoji right there, man. Shout out to you, bro. How are you, bro? I think you watched the RAF too, right? You know, Colby Covington obviously got that, you know, that technical win over Dylan Dennis. Not a surprise, obviously, right? What was Dylan Dennis going to do there, right? Like, just, you know, wait for him to pull guard until he got tired? He's not a wrestler, right? So, you know, shout out to the RAF, man, you know, giving, like, different UFC guys a different alternative in between their fights. Armin Sarukian gets a win over Giorgio. That doesn't surprise me. Now, beforehand, I would have thought Georgie would have won. I thought he would have won in the first matchup going into it. Only because I thought, you know what? It is Armin Sarukian that's not really the wrestler. He's not really a wrestler if you think about it. He's an MMA wrestler. Think of like George St. Pierre, right? That is what Armin Sarukian is basically like. He is like a George St. Pierre that was a full-blown mixed martial artist that decided, you know what, I'm going to dedicate my craft into wrestling. And he says, of course, I'm glad Armin won and Giorgio was humbled. Yeah, you know what, Giorgio, man, look, you need a guy like that in the world of wrestling, right? You need a guy like Giorgio in the world of wrestling because, I'm going to be honest with you, right? Wrestling, if you're not a wrestler yourself, you're going to find it very boring, okay? Like, I don't go out of my way, like, even till now, it's not like I go out of my way to, you know, tell a bunch of homies, hey, listen, you know, let's get together and watch the RAF show. Oh, what is that? Okay, but I tell you what, if I do mention there's Colby Covington, okay, you know, then the homies are going to know who that is. They're going to know who Armin is. They're going to know who Dylan Dennis is. You know, oh, yeah, the guy that got beat up by Khabib and his crew, right? Yup. Yeah, he's wrestling tonight. Oh, and he's wrestling that dude, Colby Covington? Yeah. Oh, man, I'm in. You know, like this, like having UFC names in a wrestling organization, I think was ultimately a genius move on your part. He says, yeah, I can't stand Giorgio since he moved to LA. Bro, listen, bro. You know what, man? What is it is this thing with Ohio guys, right? When they move to California, right? They all of a sudden just become a completely different person. Bone Thugs and Harmony is a classic example of that, right? All of a sudden, you know, they're rappers from Ohio, right? And you couldn't tell, back in the 90s, you couldn't tell they were from Ohio. They looked like Cali dudes. You know, they had the plaid shirts and everything. They looked like gang members from like a Crip neighborhood, you know, because they were all tied in with Eazy-E, obviously, right? You know, 100, yes. Jake Paul and Logan Paul is another example of that. Ohio guys that became California guys. Giorgio is another example of that. But what all these guys had in common, all these Ohio guys had in common was that once you move to California, you got to do everything big. You have to do everything big, right? And sometimes that's going to turn off a lot of people, right? I hear a lot of interviews with Jake Paul and Logan Paul, how they talked about how many people in their section and the people that they grew up with were just completely turned off by their content. And I can't necessarily blame them, but at the same time, I kind of get it. Right? Like, you know, these are guys that became different once they, you know, started moving into, you know, this part of the world. Giorgio came from the straight up farm country too. Okay, well, you know what? That's surprising. That's even more surprising, right? Because yeah, the country people are very different. You know what I mean? And as you guys have seen in the live streams that I've done here, I've driven past, these very country, orientated type of towns, in my area. You guys have seen me drive around in these areas, sort of exhibiting that, right? And I've talked to many of these folks before, right? They're just some of the most humble people, gracious people that you will ever meet, right? But if you come from the Midwest and then you go to California to become a star, or at least attempt to be a star, right? Whether it's through social media or trying to get gigs in acting, you tend to become a different person. I think Giorgio started understanding, you know what, man, if I go to California and, challenge a bunch of these guys who never wrestled, okay, because the majority of Californians, never wrestle, unless, of course, you go to, like, some really country town or whatever, then that's another thing, right? But, even here in Sacramento, we have some areas where, there's some pretty good wrestling programs in high schools, right? And in fact, Uriah has even gone out of his way to recruit some of these young wrestlers from high school, trying to encourage them to get into fighting. But overall, most people in California are not that proficient in wrestling, so what did Giorgio do? He decided he was going to do the $1,000 challenge, right? He was going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to challenge everybody to this, and then I'm going to put it on film as some sort of, like, social media hype, and it worked. It worked. That is the reason why, he is the reason why the Armin Sarukian and Giorgio matchup is probably the biggest rivalry thus far in RAF history. He started off being a fitness influencer in LA. Huh. Okay, that's interesting. He was a fitness influencer. Wow, okay. What exactly did he teach in fitness? What was it like? Was it functional training, or was it bodybuilding, or a little bit of both? Right? Because that's interesting. I didn't know that about Giorgio. I just thought Giorgio came into the scene with the whole entire, $1,000 take me down challenge, right? I thought that was all it was. No, he just worked out like a bodybuilder. Okay, so yeah, obviously, that none of that bodybuilding stuff helped them with the Armin Sarukian fight, right? You know what I mean? Like, Armin Sarukian wrestles with the best of them. So obviously comes to mind. You've seen the fight with Armin and Islam Makhachev. That was a straight up wrestling match, right? That was like Olympic level wrestling right there between them. And yeah, man, Armin is no joke in wrestling. And this is a guy who didn't grow up wrestling like we did, right? Like, I'm talking about, like, middle school, high school, sometimes even college, right? He never went through any of those systems. He just went straight into MMA, fought MMA his whole entire career, and yeah, he never really competed in wrestling until RAF. But now I'm glad that because of RAF, we now are starting to see the level and the extent of his wrestling prowess. So there it is, right?
The matter, April the 4th at the El-Kheer Arena, is going down all the way through. And it's going to be nothing but excitement when you got a Derek Chisora, War Chisora, and you got a Deontay the Bronze Wilder. It's
Deontay the Bronx Bomber, the Bronze Bomber, baby. Deontay Wilder. Oh, baby, oh my God. This power in my hands. Yo, guys, listen, I urge you guys to watch the Derek Chisora Deontay Wilder fight. I guarantee you this fight is going to blow out the UFC this weekend, okay? Like, obviously, this is a UFC, a pro UFC channel, right? But sometimes other cards just have it better on some weeks, right? And this is one of them, right? This is one of them, right? Obviously, this is boxing, but man, I got to tell you, if you're an MMA fan that likes violence, I think this is the boxing match for you, right? So I really encourage you guys to go check this this fight out with Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora. It's going to be nothing but pure violence in it.
Made for perfect, it's tailor made for it, so it fit perfectly, you know. And like I said before, and I said again, I need him more than he needs me, you know, because I still got plans of moving forward and doing things, you know.
That's interesting. He said that he needs him more than Chisora needs him, because Derek Chisora, here's something you guys have to understand, right? Derek Chisora is planning on retiring once this fight is over. Like, this is his last fight. He called it. He said that this is his last fight. But Deontay Wilder wants to continue moving forward. He says, yeah, because Deontay isn't a boxer. He's a slugger, LOL. There you go. Yes, that is exactly why this fight is going to be fun, right? Deontay Wilder, in any fight that he's in, it is fun. He is always in fun fights because lately he either gets knocked out or he knocks the living hell out of people, right? Obviously, he was, on the giving side of that. Now, in his latter stages of his career, he's on the receiving end of it, indicative of the Zhilei Zhang fight. But he's an exciting fighter. You never know what's going to happen with him. That's another thing with Derek Chisora as well. You never know what kind of Derek Chisora is going to show up. Look, did anybody guess that Joe Joyce was going to get beat by Derek Chisora? By the way, what's interesting about that card, that's the same day that Belal Muhammad up north in Manchester, so there was 2 events going on that day in England, right? Up north, there was Belal Muhammad and Leon Edwards. Okay, and down south in London, there was Joe Joyce and Derek Chisora. And by the way, they didn't clash with each other, right? Because they decided, you know what, we're going to have this fight in American time. Okay, and I thought that was, look, that was probably brutal for Leon Edwards because obviously he's fighting in the middle of the morning, but at the same time, they didn't want to clash with Joe Joyce and Derek Chisora, right? Especially when it's going on in the same country, literally 700 miles away, right? So, yeah, nobody expected him to win that fight. He did. He won that fight. The Otto Wallin fight in Manchester back in February of last year. No one had expected him to win that fight. If you've seen Otto Wallin fight Tyson Fury, he was very close to beating Tyson Fury, right? The Swedish boxer Otto Wallin. He beat Otto Wallin decisively. So that is why you don't know what kind of Deontay Wilder shows up. And in this case, in everything that I'm just saying about Derek Chisora, you don't know what kind of Derek Chisora will show up. Obviously, he lost to Tyson Fury back in December 2022. That's a given, right? Who doesn't lose to Tyson Fury other than Usyk?
He's in the retirement stage of his life. You know, he's trying to take me with him so we can go fishing.
I didn't tell him you're going to retire with me. You know? My selling point for this fight, I was like,
Okay, so that's interesting, right? Derek Chisora said that Deontay Wilder wants to move forward after this fight. I'm going to retire after this fight. He said he's going to come and retire with me. I'm going to bring him straight to you-know-what with me, right? And an interesting thing about this also, they're very much friendly with each other about this, right? Just very friendly with each other, very much cordial, right? There's not a lot of like hype or a lot of animosity between them. So, yeah.
well, you are not fighting after I fight you, fight me, because he's going to retire with me. Because I am walking out that ring retired, he's going to be walking out that ring retired as well. But he don't realize it. He's in denial. But it's okay.
He's in denial about
the retirement.
what you can do to him in the ring?
Yeah, what I can do to him, and plus retirement as well.
You know.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, and one thing, why I say I need him, because I need his style of things. I've been through a lot of stuff mentally, And if I say I'm back and I want to know I'm back, this is the perfect test for me. Because we know Derek, he brings everything. The pressure, he'll hit you anywhere he can, where he can get away with. And I'm gonna need that pressure, but pressure break pipes. But pressure also build diamonds. And I'm looking for him to build a diamond out of me and go forward, instead of bust the pipes. And, and this is going to be a great fight overall. I can feel it. I can sense it, and I love the environment that we're in. I love the situation, the aroma that we have when we come in. People get nervous around us, but we're not nervous around y'all. You understand me? And it's a beautiful thing to feel it, to understand it, to have an off switch. But when it's time to turn that motherfucker on, go time.
Do you, this guy was at one stage known as the hardest hitting heavyweight we've ever seen. Right? It was the conversations with him, it was the conversation with George Foreman, Mike Tyson. Do you think that guy still exists?
He does.
And you know what? I agree with that, right? I agree that Deontay Wilder is probably one of the hardest hitting fighters of all time, maybe even more than Mike Tyson, okay? But what does Mike Tyson and Deontay Wilder have in common? What they have in common is that when you put them up against a formidable boxer, i.e. Tyson Fury, right? Another heavy slugger like Zhilei Zhang, they have some weaknesses there. They've got some weaknesses there. Now, Derek Chisora, what's interesting about this matchup is that even though Derek Chisora is a brawler, he can also box. He can box when he needs to box. That is what's really interesting about Derek Chisora. He can box. He just chooses not to. For whatever reason he has of why he doesn't choose to box. Maybe he just likes to fight in a brawling style. By the way, we're going to talk about Izzy in a little bit, right? Maybe in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to talk about Izzy and what's going on with him and why he's in this situation. You know what? Let's talk about Izzy. Yeah, okay. We'll talk about Izzy in a couple of minutes. Sure. Yeah, so the reason why I brought up Izzy was because Izzy was obviously in a slugfest with Joe Pyfer, right? Now, why did he decide to do that? Well, he decided that, you know what, I don't have a perfect record anymore, so why not just go all out? I've seen this with Tyron Woodley in his last fight, right, against Vicente Luque. He tried to go all out. He's like, you know what do I got to lose? I've already lost, and I've already lost multiple times. It's that analogy that I brought up during the post-fight event, right? The post-fight live stream. I said something to the effect that imagine driving your car in GTA, right? It's in great condition. There's no scratches. You're driving perfectly. You're watching your P's and Q's while you're driving. Then next thing you know, you end up in a shootout, right? With other players or maybe NPCs or whoever that's the adversary for you in the GTA game, right? Now all of a sudden your car's got bullet holes. Now all of a sudden your car has scratches because you're trying to get away from an enemy. Now at that point, you don't care how you drive because you've already damaged your car. And then of course you go to the little pay and spray thing to, kind of get it back intact, the way that it was prior to, getting damages on it. But nonetheless, yeah, that's sort of where Izzy was at, but we'll talk more about that in just a second before we get to this right here.
Put it this way, let's say we put a lion in this room, an old-ass lion. Everybody else will be jumping up and down trying to run away. He's still got the power, man. Yeah, he's playing deception right now.
Cole Old says, welcome back, brother. Miss you, man. Miss you too as well, man. Shout out to you. I had a bit of a fever yesterday. I still have a little bit of that right now, but you know what? I had to keep trucking on. You know what I'm saying? I have a dream to become the biggest MMA YouTuber out there, and you don't become the biggest MMA YouTuber by skipping out on days just because you're sick. Now, obviously, yesterday I wanted to come in and elaborate more on the Izzy situation, but I was like, man, you know what? I'll just, kind of sit this one out. But here I am, right here offering great service to you guys in the world of combat sports, in the world of geopolitics, and in the world of street smarts. So here I am, trucking away to the best ability, to the best of my ability, and trying to move forward. You know what I mean? So yeah, miss you as well, man. Thank you for the sentiments. I really appreciate all the support that I get from people around the world. No matter if there's 20 people in here or 9 people, whatever that may be. So shout out to all you guys.
Yeah, you still got it.
Why do you run to that then, Chisora? In your last fight, when you believe that he still has the bronze bomber power that we've seen put so many people to sleep, why are you running towards that?
Why am I running towards that? It's simple. Legacy. Some people want to win titles by not fighting real fighters. And we have seen it happen in boxing. So I rather fight real fighters and say, what? If you look at everybody, I did the interview the other day, and telling me everybody I boxed was like, wow, did I fight those guys? What was I thinking? But you know what? A legacy for me. I want to be that guy. He boxed everybody. Be ashamed if I don't fight him.
When a fighter, and I'll ask you, and I'll put it to you as well, when a fighter says it's their last fight, I always feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I always feel like if you've got one foot out of the door, it's dangerous. Like, you've got to be fully committed. Is there...
You know what? That is one thing that kind of holds me back on picking Derek Chisora over Deontay Wilder. I mean, obviously, Deontay Wilder is the American guy, right? I should be able to support him, right? Because let's put it like this, right? I don't like how us American fight fans... I don't like how us American fight fans don't support our own, right? It's almost like we either don't care that they're American, or we just assume that because they're American, they're going to come out on top. And that's not always the case, right? But objectively speaking, I would like to see Deontay Wilder win, but I feel like Derek Chisora is just a lot more sharper right now in his career than Deontay Wilder. However, there is that one factor of Derek Chisora having his one foot out the door, and that's never good. That's never good. It's never good in MMA, it's never good in boxing, and it's never good anywhere else, right? So, yeah, man.
Yeah. Do you almost feel like...
But I feel like he has enough skills to win this one this weekend, and yeah, look, I'm telling you guys right now, all my MMA guys, I know all the boxing heads are going to be up on it, but to all my MMA guys, how about this, right? I get Zayn in there. You know what I mean? I'm sure Zayn would love to be part of this, right? You know what I mean? So well, you know what? Let's do it live right now.
Reason. It's so much harder. Inflation is so...
Let's do it live right now. Let me ask him.
Inflation is so much worse than you think it is. It's occurred.
Okay, let's get Andrew Tate out of the way here, and then let's call up Zayn. We're gonna call up Zayn right now and see if he wants to. He says Zayn will be betting big. Yeah, please don't. Okay, this is a fight you should not bet. He says, I wonder how his Ramadan went. Pretty good. Well, you know what? Let's ask him. Let's ask him right now. Let's see if we can get him on the phone right now. All right, not available. What time is it in the UK right now? Let's see. Excuse me. London time right now. What is the London time right now? Okay, so it's 5:21 p.m. in London right now. Okay, he should be up, but okay. Yeah, look, speaking of betting, this is a fight I would not recommend anyone betting, okay? Because after the fact, if you see Deontay Wilder win, you'll be like, yeah, you know what, that was supposed to happen. And if you see Deontay Wilder lose, you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. It should happen. Derek Chisora just seems to be the much sharper guy right now. No, you don't know how this fight is going to go. You really don't. Okay? And there's no amount of boxing knowledge that you have that's going to let you know how this fight is going to go, which is why this fight is so exciting. This is why I'm so excited for this fight, right? I am so excited for this boxing matchup because, quite frankly, there's not a lot of boxing matches where there's 50-50s all the time, right? Even in the Turkey El-Sheikh era, right, sometimes you're not going to get that because the best that they can do is Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora. We know how that was going to pan out, right? Canelo versus Terence Crawford. Now, obviously, Terence Crawford is my favorite boxer, right? But there was no guarantee that he was going to win that until you started seeing first round. Okay, he's got control. Second round, he's got control. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. Oh my goodness, he's going to win this fight. But prior to those rounds going on, you really had no understanding of how this fight was going to go, and that's kind of what I see Derek Chisora and Deontay Wilder. Here's another thing you guys have to take into consideration too, right? Most fights, you think you know how it's going to go, you really don't. And the reason being is because the knowledge that you have of the sport of fighting, MMA, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, it does not equate to the reality of what is going on in their lives. Okay, now for example, Derek Chisora had a domestic case going on at one point of his career, right? He had a domestic case situation going on. Deontay Wilder has this divorce situation going on, very similar to Ilia Topuria, right? By the way, I see a lot of similarities, right? The type of women that the type of women that Deontay Wilder and Ilia Topuria sort of go after, right? You know, they go after like these glam-looking type of women that, you know, quite frankly, has a high susceptibility to materialism, right? So it's no wonder after Deontay Wilder started losing, now all of a sudden, you know, she decided, all right, you know, I don't want to be with you anymore. You know, John Fitch. You guys know John Fitch, right? Who remembers John Fitch for all my, you know, for all my old school hardcore MMA heads here? John Fitch, right? I've spoken to John Fitch personally before. He told me that his woman dumped him as soon as he started getting on a losing streak, and an even worse, left him when he was no longer in the UFC because it like shattered her whole entire identity. Okay, her whole entire identity was, you know what? Here's John Fitch, who's you know a significant other of hers, who's a UFC fighter. So it helped boost her ego. My man is a UFC fighter. You know, he gave George St. Pierre the hardest fight of his life. Okay, and now all of a sudden he gets knocked out by Johnny Hendricks, gets kicked out of the UFC, no longer in the UFC, fights in Bellator. Now all of a sudden, she's bye-bye, gone. You know what I mean? Typical Bay Area chick. By the way, she's Asian. Not that that matters, but you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't even know why I mentioned that part. You know what I mean? But sorry, I got a little bit of a Freudian slip there. But yeah, she's Asian, okay? That's just really what it comes down to. She's Asian, and let's be honest, okay? You know, obviously, you guys know I hang out with a lot of Asians. You know, the Asians are my brothers in arms when it comes to the street shit. You know, but at the same time, let's be really honest about this. A lot of Asian women are highly materialistic because guess what? When you look at the United States stats, you know who does better than any racial group in America when it comes to socioeconomic status? It is the Asians, which, by the way, we're going to elaborate more later on. He says, oh yeah, first most boring fighter, LOL. Yup, that's what he was known for, but he was winning. He was winning, you know, very similar to Evloev. Evloev is sort of getting a bit of a John Fitch treatment right now. Okay, because he is winning his fights, but he's not I mean, the dude has no finishes in the UFC. I mean, can you imagine that, right? But his fighting style works. It works. But he doesn't have any finishes in the UFC. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. But all right, let's continue on with this Derek Chisora Deontay Wilder face-off.
With Chisora saying it's his last fight, is he a more dangerous fighter for you, or is there a case of, well, this guy's got one fight out of the door already?
No, I mean, it's all up on him, you know. If he say this is the last fight, then we have to hold him to his word until he proved differently, you know. I don't believe he got one foot in, then, you know, what you said, you know, because at the end of the day, to complete a task, to complete a mission and get the job done, you got to have both feet outside of the line. You only surrender when you throw that flag up, not halfway, but all the way up and wave it. You feel me? Because you can be indecisive, you know. But what you want to do when you're having that 1 foot in, out the door, you know what I mean? Because that 1 foot, all you got to do is lift it and bring that bitch back in. You know what I'm saying, me? So that on this.
Okay, so I understand what Deontay Wilder is saying here, right? You could just easily lift that foot right back in there and forget about it, right? Do you guys... Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember when I made the video about Tom Aspinall's dad? What did I title it? Right? I always play it in what you call the scam lives, right? By the way, Myron Gaines was copying me yesterday doing a scam live, right? He was playing a pre-recorded video of his, oh, by the way, Ohio University. By the way, right? Myron was in Ohio University, Marty. I'm surprised you didn't go to that one and shout out, shout him out or ask him some questions or this and that. But yeah, he was in Ohio University. Sean Boy, he says, "What's up, my man? How are you, Sean Boy? Salam alaikum, wa alaikum salam, rahmatullah, barakatuh to you, my man. How do I spell it?" Well, it's interesting that you say that, right? Because Arabic and English spelling doesn't have to be accurate, right? For example, my last name, Abu El-Kheer. My family members on their Facebook, they spelled Abu El-Kheer way differently than how I spell it, right? Obviously, I spell it the conventional way, Abuelkheer. There's some that will spell Abu El-Kheer Abuelkheer, or the way that I spell it is Abu El-Kheer, Abuelkheer. So how you spell Salam Alaikum is exactly how you would pronounce it in the English spelling. There's no exact translation to that, because obviously Arabic has its own alphabet, just as the English language has its own alphabet as well. He says you should check to see if Fresh is blocked. I didn't. You know what? I don't know how to block people permanently, right? So I don't think he's blocked at all. Yeah, I just think that he's out saving the world right now. You know what I mean? Like, do you not know this guy is a CIA agent? So he's out there right now protecting our country and in the interest of Israel. Okay, so... Okay, so Sean Boy says, I changed my religion to Islam. Wow. Okay, I am now sleeping like a baby, and I made so many new friends, and I haven't touched alcohol since I saved money, bought a new iPhone 16. Wow. New diesel clothes. Okay. He says, I booked my holiday to the UK, man. All right, Sean Boy says, I don't think I would have been able to do this without Islam. Hey, man, listen, everybody, give a big shout out to Sean Boy for his conversion to Islam, man. This really brings a lot of happiness to my heart to hear this, right? Victory says, I think Hate Love told on himself the day saying he saw Fresh hidden from the channel. Okay, maybe that's what it is. He says, my anxiety is almost gone now. So, Sean, the thing about Islam, right? When you pray, right, you are slamming your head, this part of your head, to the ground, right? This part of your head is your decision-making skills, okay? All of your decision-making skills are right here. So guess what? a little fight, a little bit of a fight analysis for you guys. If you really want to, debilitate your opponent's decision making during a fight, you got to aim right here. You aim right here. You're going, because you know what, you could hit them in the jaw. Obviously, it's going to rock their brain, but you hit them right here. That's going to affect their decision making. But on the non-violent side of things, obviously, you praying 5 times a day, right? If you try to attempt doing 5 times a day, your decision-making skills are going to enhance. And that is why I think your anxiety had went down. Victory says, you know how Fresh can get. I think he might have made Hate Love mad and Hate blocked him. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Do you have an Instagram I can follow? No, I don't, but I do have a Facebook. It's under my first name, and then the last name is Khalaf. 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 I'm going to write it on the comment section below real quick, just so you can get the full details of it right here. He says, are you praying 5 times a day? Yes, of course, brother. He says, I don't really use Facebook. Sean Boy says, my mom doesn't know yet. I'm scared to tell her. She probably will laugh at it first and make fun of me, but eventually will accept it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about a homeboy of mine that
do these things.
That I helped convert to Islam. Okay.
Do these things. Want this thing?
Hold on. Let me write my name, my Facebook name on here. He says, how do you convert to Islam? You take your shahada, right? Usually it's done at a mosque, where if you're, taking your shahada, at the mosque, the whole community is going to gather around, and then you're going to profess that there is only one God and Muhammad is his messenger, and then, you are now known to the Islamic community, whether that's your local mosque or a particular Muslim area, so that's how you do it. You basically do it, at a mosque or at a public place with an imam that is, obviously qualified to do such. So is that what you did, Sean? Did you take your shahada? Let's see here. All right, so there it is. That's my Facebook name right there, right? So yeah, look me up, obviously, and then you can, you can add me there. He says that's what I did. Yes, that's just my experience. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, that everything that I just mentioned, Marty, Sean Boy went through all that, and yeah, man, that's beautiful to hear, Sean. That's really beautiful to hear. Okay, so story time. All right. Here's a home. Let me show you a picture of him, right? I'm going to show you a picture of him. Then I'm going to reveal to you who he is. He's actually a YouTuber now as well, right? He does MMA content. Well, more like fighting instructional content. So, all right. So this was 2010, Team Alpha Male right here, right? At the Team Alpha Male gym. Oops. What happened here? Okay, here we go. So that's the guy in the middle, okay? That's the guy in the middle. That's me in the red shorts right there. And then that's Andy Salzman, okay? A good training partner of ours, competed a lot in jiu-jitsu, obviously. Yeah. Andy, by the way, he's a Jewish man from San Diego. Just kind of wanted to throw it out there. Shout out to Andy Salzman if you're watching this. I don't think he even knows I have a Facebook channel, but anyway, so the guy in the middle, Donald Thomas, okay? This guy was a former Sacramento State University basketball player, okay? I started training with him in 2010. And he was really into martial arts. He got into martial arts because he wanted to improve his basketball. And then lo and behold, he became you know, a full-blown, a fighter, right? He started competing. He's now a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And at that time, many of his family members were a little bit apprehensive of him converting to Islam. And in fact, they blamed me. They blamed me for changing him, okay? This guy, we would go to a club and literally all the women would fall, you know, off for him. Straight up, right? He was that guy. He was that guy, okay? Like, I'm telling you, he had Logan Paul charisma. Straight up, right? He had all of that going on. He kind of reminded me of Logan Paul back in the days, right? But yeah, he had Logan Paul charisma. So he became a Muslim. And next thing you know, we kind of fell out for a little bit, you know, because we just didn't, you know, kind of, we didn't really keep in touch with each other. But let me show you his page right now, okay? Let me show you his page right now. So let's see here. Fitness Anonymous is his name. So he's kind of a fitness influencer now. Let me show you, okay, so Fitness Anonymous, here it is, right here. This is his page, by the way. Fitness Anonymous, okay? So this is what he has going on right here. Check this out.
I'm a little confused. Is he trying to miss, or does this guy really have good defense? I'm just impressed. It takes real skill to have this much passion with this little accuracy. My man is fighting the ghost of his own potential. What the heck is going on?
Okay, so for a while, he was doing masked content, right? Where he was wearing a mask, right? And then all of a sudden, he made a face reveal 6 months ago. Okay, this is what he looks like right now. Okay, so he's gonna do a face reveal right now. Check this out.
Background, that's good. You guys being nosy? That's so good. Yeah, I'm a pro belt, man. Yeah, I roll. But yeah, I'm gonna be posting my videos of me training, having more engagement, man. You know, and I wanted to make this live about that and get some more followers in here, some more likes, man. We can, you know, maybe we could do a face reveal. You know. But yeah, pro belt, man. Nothing too big, nothing crazy, but you could say I've been rolling for a while, so yeah, 100%. People texting me all day. What is this? Followers, conversation. So it's funny how people have all these ideas. For you guys, man.
All right, this is the face reveal right here.
And the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow. This is what he looks like. Did you guys ever believe that? Did you know I had a beard? Did you know? Did you know?
I knew you had a beard. Of course I knew you had a beard, right? Because I was one of the few people in the world to know what you looked like.
This is Fitness Anonymous. So, to the 6 people in here who haven't seen me before, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. You're romantic. 100%. Yes, sir. Nothing crazy. Yeah, get to the mask, right?
So there you go, right? You know, a buddy of mine, you know, became a Muslim, and you know, I'm always happy to see that, you know, other people go through that same journey as well. You know what I mean? So it's beautiful to see that. And yeah, man, you know, hopefully we'll see Sean with the same big old beard. I mean, look at that guy. That guy's got a bigger beard than I do, you know, because sometimes I be trimming mine a little bit, right? Because I don't want it to get too long, but it does get long enough. But his is like, you know, he looks like a straight up Islamic scholar, you know. But nonetheless, let's see here. Okay, so all right, let's get back to the Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora here.
Doesn't mean you automatically out the door. That's just something that a person think about or whatever. Maybe it's on the outside of fans may think that way, but as a fighter, you just never know. You know, you just never know. And if he say he's done, and with the things that how he's explained it, even with the wife, you know, when a man loves, he loves hard. You understand me? When a man loves, he loves hard.
Yeah, you and Ilya Tapora would know a thing or two about that, right? You know what I mean? When a man loves hard, baby. You know what I mean? And then you meet your wife in Miami. Yeah, I meet somebody in Miami. We love hard in Miami. Miami, we love hard with all the 304s up in here, right? You know, it's not 305, it's 304s, right? Because that's the area code of Miami.
You have to hold him to his word until he shows otherwise.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced. When this fight was made, everyone said puncher, brawler. We know you can crack Chisora. Everyone saying that if this fight plays out, it's Wilder that wins it by knockout. It's Chisora that wins it by almost brawling and winning a tough fight. Do you expect to knock out Deontay Wilder? Do you think you can knock out Deontay Wilder?
You can knock anybody out, but I've never been in a position to knock people out. I'm just in a position to just drown people.
Do you expect to drown him?
I'm gonna drown him. That's one thing I know.
You do?
That's what I do. You know, because I know for a fact he will not train the way I train. I'm gonna drown him. I'm gonna hit him.
Everywhere.
You know, I'm a certified scuba diver, right?
Yeah, scuba diving and being fit is
I can free dive as well.
can you?
Man, shout outs to Deontay Wilder on that, right? You know, I didn't know Deontay Wilder was a scuba diver, but, you know, obviously, you know, when you grow up in Toluca, Alabama, baby, you know, and you didn't really have a lot of money growing up, you know, now you start, you know, gaining a little bit more money. You want to experience things. So, you know, shout outs to Deontay Wilder for getting into scuba diving. I've gotten into scuba diving before. It's great. It's wonderful, but at the same time, it is a little bit scary because what happens if your equipment, you know, goes haywire, right? That's always going to be in the back of your mind. But, you know, it's what we do as men, you know, as men of adventure. You know, it's something that we have to do as young lads. If you are a young lad, you have to go out there and explore the dangers and the adventurous, treacherous world that you have in front of you.
Jesus.
RH says, why are you avoiding my question? Why don't you have a hair growing? Huh? Why don't you have it? What is that? What are you talking about? Okay, then you retracted your statement. Yeah, please write that statement again. He says, have you ever heard Donald Cerrone talk about his cave diving experience? Yes. I've heard him speak about that. I believe he was in Thailand when that situation happened where they had to rescue, you know, I believe some people that were stuck in a cave or something like that, right? Or maybe he was talking about it. Was he talking about it, or was he part of it, or was he there in proximity in Thailand when that happened? But yes, I do know that Donald Cerrone is, you know, is a scuba diver himself. So.
So I'm in for a long night. Not to knock him out. Now you want to knock him out.
I'm not one of them black guys that can't swim.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man.
Oh, man. Oh, I love it that he said that. He says, man, listen, I ain't one of these black guys that don't know how to swim. So he does know about the stereotype, which, by the way, I don't understand. Look, I don't get this stereotype of black guys can't swim, right? I really don't get it. Maybe because the black guys that I've been around are all athletes. And, you know, of course, if you're an athlete, especially if you're a combat athlete, I'm probably going to see you at the pool, you know, at some point. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't understand. Maybe it's just because of the black guys that I know. A lot of them are combat athletes. But then again, you know, I also got a lot of homies that, you know, don't like swimming at the beach, right? If they go to the beach, they just go there and just hang out. You know what I mean? Like, I got homies like that. They'll just hang out at the beach, right? I'm like, yo, why don't you want to go swim or this and that, right? And it's not because, you know, some of them are fat or anything like that, which, by the way, I can understand, right? If you're fat and you don't want to, like, take off your shirt or whatever, that's one thing. But these are guys that are not that, right? They just don't like to swim. But I never understood that stereotype. Victory says, I'm not sure where he was, but the trail line broke, so he got turned around and didn't know which way was out, and he was running out of oxygen. Oh, okay. Okay, yes. So I do remember now. He did talk about the Thailand situation, and he sort of correlated it to his experience. So yes, so you see, that is what is dangerous about scuba diving, right? If your gear goes haywire, I mean, oh my God, man. I don't even want to think about that, the humanity, you know, that is involved in that, right? But yeah, man, back to what Deontay Wilder was saying, yeah, so he mentioned a stereotype of, you know, how black guys can't swim, and obviously I think that stereotype stems from people who are underprivileged, right? They don't have a pool around them. They don't live near a beach. But you look at Jamaicans, okay, there's a surf community in Jamaica. Okay, in Africa, there's a huge scuba diving program that you could join in different beach resorts, ranging from South Africa all the way to West Africa, where they have shorelines, all the way to East Africa as well, where they have shorelines. They got all of this over there. So, yeah, I guess it just really depends on what part of the world you are from. And you know what? Here's the thing, right? I think it is more of, you know, a financial burden type of thing, right? Because, you know, you can't afford to go to a pool or this and that, right? What I'm saying is that there's ghetto white boys that can't swim either. So do you see the correlation with that? You know what I mean? Like, there's a strong correlation to economic prosperity and being able to swim, because, you know, now they commercialize all forms of swimming as, you know, as basically, you know, a rich man type of activity. So, yeah, man, shout out to Deontay Wilder for being one of the few brothers that can actually go out there and swim.
It's a beautiful world under there.
Can you do the black flip, the backstroke?
I can do all that.
Shit.
Yeah, man.
He says, yeah, I could do all that. You know what I mean? And he's basically trying to say to him, yeah, I'm going to be backstroking all over you, you know, in that ring come Saturday.
Maybe new plans needed.
Nah. It's Cold War.
It's Cold War.
Yeah.
Indeed. But Wilder, do you expect to knock out Chisora?
That's you know, that's what I'm planning on doing. That's what I see the fight happening. I see that either he gonna knock me out, or I'm gonna knock him out. You know, even though he may not have had the experience as much as.
Okay, so 2 minutes. I'm going to let this run for 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to talk about why Israel Adesanya is done.
Me or knocking people out doesn't mean he don't have the capability of doing it. This is like he said, anybody can be knocked out. It's only take the right punch at the right time at the right moment, and that's it, you know. And we all know, just like in life, the things that hurt us is the things that we can't see.
When does it switch for both of you? Like, when does this...
That's deep. He says the things that can hurt us in life are the things that we can't see.
When do we see the Bronze Bomber? When do we see War Chisora? Right now, I feel like I've got Derek and I've got Deontay.
Nah, the switch.
All right, so in less than 60 seconds, I'm going to talk about why Israel Adesanya is done. If you want to see the rest of this face-off, go to the Zone Boxing face-off, Derek Chisora and Deontay Wilder. Right, you can watch it in its full entirety. But yeah, we're going to talk about why Israel Adesanya is done. Okay, so let's pull up the post-fight press, the post-fight interview that Israel Adesanya did. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so...
How'd you guys get out of work? Some guy said he'd do it for a case of Bud Light. Wait, what guy?
All right, man, yeah, a little Bud Light commercial. Straight haram. Straight haram this is. Okay.
UFC.
Here with the former champion, Israel Adesanya. Izzy, fantastic fight. A lot of action in the second round. Was there anything surprising in that fight with Joe Pyfer that we just saw?
Nope, I expected the best Joe Pyfer. I knew this was his biggest fight ever, so he's going to bring his best, and he did. And there was nothing surprising. I expected the best, and he brought the best.
He brought a lot of pressure. In the second round, you seemed to have had him hurt. And then you kind of started to brawl with him. What went into that decision?
I said before coming into this fight, it's been 13 months. I wanted to feel like I've been in a fight. And he gave me just that. So, like I said to him...
So he said that he wanted to feel like he was in a fight, which is why he fought way out of his character. Okay, so now let's talk about whether Israel Adesanya is done or not. I'm going to get straight to the point. When it comes to high-level, championship, contender-level fighting in the UFC, Israel Adesanya is done. He is 100% done. And that is indicative of the fact that he lost to Joe Pyfer. Okay? We're going to get to Joe Pyfer in a second as well. But going into Israel Adesanya, he's done in the highest levels. He is absolutely done. And the reason why he's done is because he can no longer compete at the highest level. However, can he compete with guys that are in the top 10, maybe even top 15? Yes, he can. He can compete with those guys. He can compete with the guys at the lower level. He can even compete with the guys that are in the prelims. The problem is, do you want to see Israel Adesanya fight guys in the prelims? And the answer is no. You don't want to see any of that. What you want to see is Israel Adesanya at high stakes type of fights, such as Alex Pereira, such as Jan Blachowicz. Those were high stake fights, whether he won or lost those, right? Well, now, the UFC has a choice. Are they going to continue to market Israel Adesanya and give him the type of fights that, let's say, MVP just had in UFC London, where he ended up fighting his teammate, right? Somebody who's not a top-level mixed martial artist, at least not right now. That's where Izzy is at right now. He has to fight those guys, otherwise retire. But the problem is, do you want to see him fight those guys? Does the UFC want to see him fight those guys? And the answer to both questions, whether it's the UFC or the fans, is no. You don't want to see any of that. The reason why you don't want to see any of that is because, once again, you are used to seeing Israel Adesanya fighting high-stake level fights. And what sort of high stakes are you going to get out of Israel Adesanya fighting a bunch of dudes that have no business being in the top 15? That is the reality of Israel Adesanya right now. Okay? Meaning that, okay, let's continue on with what he has to say here, because it kind of correlates to what I'm saying here.
At the weigh-ins, they gave me a shot. Now it's my turn to give him a shot, and he earned it, and he did so great. So congrats to Joe Pyfer for this.
Izzy, you're one of the greatest champions.
Okay, that's great, man. Very gracious of Israel Adesanya to put it down like that.
This organization's ever seen. How do you move forward after a fight like this?
Okay, this is what I wanted to get to right here. DC asks him, how do you move forward after a fight like this? And he answers the following.
After another great,
You keep going again and again and again and again and again.
Okay, so he says, and keep going again and again and again and again. Sir Jacob says, amazing main card. Yes, UFC Seattle was an amazing card. Okay, so why did Israel Adesanya say, we're going to continue to do it again and again and again and again? He said this right after he knocked out Alex Pereira. He says he wants to continue doing this again and again and again. Now, why did he say that? Because this is what fighters do. This is what a lot of fighters do in the regional scenes, right? Do you guys remember the fighter Travis Fulton? Okay, before he died, by the way, he died because he was locked up in prison for child P-word, okay? Yeah, he was there for some PDF charges, okay? He died on the same night as Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor fighting. The same fight where Conor McGregor busted his leg open, right? He died on that night. So if you want to know when he died on that night. He had the most fights in all of MMA's history, but he never fought in the UFC. Right? 300 fights this guy had. Travis Fulton. Let me pull him up right here. And this kind of correlates with Israel Adesanya for a second, right? But I need you to understand that Israel Adesanya is at a completely different level, okay? This is Travis Fulton right here, okay? He was a heavyweight, and as a result of being a heavyweight, he accumulated 300 some odd fights, okay? Let me show you who this guy is right here. So let's get down to his record right here. So wow, okay, so he had a professional boxing record of, what is this? Okay, so take a look at his mixed martial arts record right here, right? He has a total of 322 fights, okay? And then he's got a total wins of 257 wins, okay? He said that because Tony Ferguson is still fighting. Yes, here's the thing, right? Tony Ferguson can get away with beating up influencers in a boxing ring, but he can't get away with fighting top-level guys in the world of the UFC. Now meet Travis Fulton, okay? His last fight was in 2019, right? Take a look at the activity level that he has. By the way, this is a very small heavyweight, right? The guy should be fighting at 185, but in reality, he is, whoa, what is this? Professional wins. Okay, they messed up his record right here on purpose, right here, because obviously he had this going on right here, right? While in custody of child, you see that word right there. Okay, Fulton at age 44 was found dead by deputies at Lynn County Jail on the morning of July 10, 2021. The cause of death was suicide by hanging. The sheriff of Lynn County later reported that his autopsy cause of death as strangulation. Okay, so he was a former M1 Global champion. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that a guy like this and a guy like Tony Ferguson can get away. They can get away with fighting over and over and over and over again because really they have never really stepped into the higher echelons of the UFC's championship division, right? They never really got up to that level. Now here's the thing. Israel Adesanya can still compete because he's a fighter by the end of the day, right? You've seen the first round. He did very well against Joe Pyfer in the first round. It was only in the second round where he started declining and Joe Pyfer was able to do what it is that he needed to do, okay? What I saw in the first round demonstrated to me that he can compete with just about anybody, but in the lower tier part of the division. Maybe even the lower tier of the 205 division, and maybe that's what's next. Maybe he needs to move up to 205. But how would he do there? It's not a lot of good names at the 205 division right now. There's not a lot of top names in terms of excitement. There's obviously Alex Pereira that's there, right? But how is that going to work out? Right, Alex Pereira is no longer the 205 champion. He vacated the belt. What is Israel Adesanya going to do now? He can't fight those guys. Let's take a look at the weight class rankings for 185. 185 UFC middleweight ranking. Let's take a look at the rankings right now for the 185 division. Okay. Okay, let's go through the list. So Joe Pyfer, obviously this is now updated. Okay, this is now updated. Khamzat right on top. Could he beat Khamzat? Nope. Dricus du Plessis, we saw that he can't beat him. He fought him. Nasruddin Imavov, he knocked him out. Sean Strickland, he beat him decisively. Brendan Allen, I would give that to Brendan Allen. Caio, maybe. Anthony Hernandez, maybe. D. Ritter, nah. How about Jared Cannonier? Could he beat Jared Cannonier right now? Probably not. Could he beat Rodriguez? Sure. How about Christian Leroy Duncan? I think he could beat him. Paulo Costa? Yeah, he beat him once. I think he could do it again. Roman Dolidze? Sure. And that's the top 15 for you. And anybody else who is in the lower tier of that division, he could probably beat. But these names right up here, okay, Dricus, Imavov, Strickland, and the big wolf of them all, Khamzat Chimaev, he can't beat any of these guys. So what is left to do? Well, this is my suggestion. My suggestion is that you go out and you fight. Where is Israel Adesanya in this? Did he get kicked out of... Oh, wait, no, he's number 9 now. Okay, so he's number 9. He's number 9 right now. Robert Whittaker. He already fought him? He's already fought a lot of these guys. Okay, how about Roman Dolidze? I would match him up with either Roman Dolidze or Christian Leroy Duncan. Can he beat him? Yes. And when he does, get out. Get out. That is all that you could do right now. Get out while your head is still intact. That's what I would advise Israel Adesanya. Get out. Get out. Okay? Get a win and get out. Just like what Prince Nassim did after he had fought, what's his name? Barrera. He lost to Barrera, and then he came back and fought a Spanish journeyman to win and ride off into the sunset. That's what Israel Adesanya needs to do in order to maintain his status as a legendary fighter, because he's going down the road of Tony Ferguson, Chuck Liddell. He's going down the road of BJ Penn, and it's getting really dark, right, in terms of his career, not his personal life, because obviously the life of BJ Penn was exactly that. It was just complete darkness, okay? So he said that because Tony Ferguson is still fighting, right? And what did Tony Ferguson do? He adjusted his competition. Even Conor McGregor, for as cocky and as arrogant as he is, he understands that he needs to modify his competition right now. They do this all the time in jiu-jitsu, okay? They do it all the time in jiu-jitsu. There's a master's division. If you're over 45 years old, you're considered, a master's division, right? They line you up with people that are the same size, the same weight and age as you, right? That's what Israel Adesanya needs to do. So my suggestion for Israel Adesanya is Christian Leroy Duncan or Roman Dolidze. Go beat them so you can show that you can still beat the top 15 guys of this weight class and then get out while your career is still intact. The problem is Israel Adesanya is a real fighter. He's a real fighter, and that's a problem. You're talking to a guy that won a tournament, okay, for, what was that King of the Ring? Israel Adesanya, King of the Ring. I believe he fought in a span of 10 days. This was a kickboxing tournament, by the way. Okay, let's see here. So, Israel Adesanya King of the Ring tournament is the most successful competitor in its history in the King of the Ring is Israel Adesanya, having won 3 separate 8-man titles across 2 weight divisions. Okay, so how many fights did he have to do that? So let's see here. He won the titles at 86 kg, 100 kg in 2017. So his dominant performance became a multi-time champion by defeating opponents like Jamie Edis, Kim Lodine, often in a spectacular fashion with knockouts and superior technical skills, multiple weights. So he was a cruiserweight and then was the super heavyweight. Tournament style were 8-man, one-night tournament, and he often secured impressive knockouts by his way of the championship. The tournament served as a major stepping stone for his kickboxing career before he transitioned into a successful career in the UFC. Okay, so that's what you have going on with Israel Adesanya. He has fought an 8-man tournament in one night. Okay, this is the type of guy that you're dealing with here. He's a real fighter. And the problem with real fighters is they don't know when to quit. They really don't know when to quit. And sometimes it can get very detrimental for them, just like Tony Ferguson, just like BJ Penn, and maybe even just like Joe Pyfer. Because, by the way, that's the next topic at hand that I want to talk about is Joe Pyfer, okay? Joe Pyfer is claiming that he wanted to unalive himself a couple of weeks ago because he said that he cheated on his girlfriend, and as a result of that, he felt like he was, you know, a less of a good human being, right? Look, I think Joe Pyfer is making up stories. I've made a video about Joe Pyfer a long time ago, right? I talked about how Joe Pyfer likes to virtue signal, likes to play the victim. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I made a video about this, you know, not too long ago. All right, this was about 1 year ago. I'm going to show you guys what I mean right here, okay? All right, so this weekend we're going to have UFC Mexico, and it's going to headline Brendan Moreno and Steve Urset. Very interesting. Even more interesting, I want to talk about is how much of a fraud Joe Pyfer is. Now, I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go over the rest of the cards, but I'm going to focus more on the Kelvin Gastelum and the Joe Pyfer fight, but specifically why Joe Pyfer is a fraud. So first, let's go over the entire card. Or no, you know what? Let's just go over right now, since I got your attention for the first 30 seconds, why I think Joe Pyfer is a fraud. This whole entire storyline of him being homeless and things of this nature, I think it's an absolute shambles, right? And I'm sorry to say, maybe this is going to have racial implications behind it. But let me just say this. You're a jacked white dude, and you're homeless, and you're crying to the world, oh, well, I was homeless, or this and that. I'm sorry, but I don't feel bad for you. For one, look, if you're white and you're homeless, you've done something really wrong in your life, because let's just be honest. The majority of people that are of that demographics have a backing. Not in ways that, let's say, other immigrant groups or people of minorities and things of that nature. And I know a lot of people are going to watch this and think, oh, this is social justice, like, oh, you're a liberal, and this and that. First of all, you don't know anything about my political views, where I stand on certain subjects and matters at hand. But one thing that I do know is that this whole entire storyline of being homeless is an absolute fraud. Okay, now, what fighter coming up is not homeless? Do you know how many fighters that I've known growing up and seeing around gyms in California? Okay, so there it is, right? The first thing, there it is, right? You know, short hair, long hair. All right, okay, so Ali Khan, let me read what you're saying here, right? So I just want to be completely transparent, brother. You should create a program, bro, because you're basically already retired in your 30s, I'm assuming. Yeah, you're assuming. You're assuming a lot, by the way. I'm saying we all have to work, and you also are in California, too, so financial literacy is very important. CA is very expensive to live in. California is already expensive to live in already. To be honest with you, Ali Khan, right? Why am I going to talk to you about, my financial situation online? Why am I going to do that? You know what the problem is? I'll tell you what the problem is, right? The problem is that, well, a lot of you assume that you know my life. A lot of you assume that you know what I have going on, right? I give you a little bit of snippets of what it is that I have going on, or whatever situation I'm in. I give you very little snippets of it, not everything. Okay? So I don't know, man. I think it's kind of stupid for us to even talk about this, on, especially something that is, a bit personal, on a live chat. That's just what I think, right? Now, okay, going back to what I was saying about Joe Pyfer. So obviously, Joe Pyfer made up a story about being homeless, right? And I sort of just, he says, it's nothing bad towards you. No, I know, it's not that I'm saying what you're saying is bad. What I'm saying is that, why am I going to talk about something that is so private, in front of everybody? That's what I'm saying. He says, but in the sense, you have already done really well for yourself. Yeah, so the point that I'm trying to make, Ali Khan, is, yeah, dude, that's not something that I'm going to discuss with you, online. Look, here's a problem with online, right? Here's a problem with this YouTube thing. The problem with this YouTube thing is that you think that you know someone just because you spend a certain amount of time with them, right? You know me through a very superficial lens, okay? Meaning that you don't know me from a can of paint, unless, of course, you happen to be in California and you're like, hey, Ali Khan is here. Okay, great. Let's go have a cup of coffee together. Then, then there's something real with that, right? But what and of course, if you were to meet with me in person, I would probably reveal to you a whole lot more than what I would not reveal on camera. You understand? Okay, so you understand, right? Like, I want you to understand it. The main point that I'm trying to make is that if we were in person, in front of each other, I would reveal more to you off camera than I would on camera. Because you got to understand, there's a lot of weirdos in here. There's a lot of weirdos. Not saying you're a weirdo, not saying that anybody who watches me is a weirdo. I'm just saying there's weirdos on the internet, period. Okay? And because of that, they're going to try to manipulate or try to find any information that they can about a person. Because look, you want to know the God honest truth about this, Ali Khan? If you are a content creator and you're an enemy of mine, these are the type of things that I would be closely paying attention to if you're an enemy of mine. Oh, what is he talking about with his financial situations or this and that? And I would use it to try and exploit an enemy, at every resources that I could find to destroy them. So I hope you understand why, I'm coming off as very abrasive in some of the things that you're suggesting, right? But in good faith, I want you to understand that if we were in person and we were having a cup of coffee together or going out to lunch or dinner or whatever it is that you would prefer, right? I would reveal a whole lot more to you than I would to a bunch of weirdos that, I don't know, or people that may have ill intentions. So, I'm glad that you understand. But all right, going back to Joe Pyfer. Look, the guy is a virtue signal artist, okay? And let's continue more with what I said about him during the UFC Mexico card back a year ago from now.
When you're all throughout Sacramento, lived in gyms, or not only that, lived with a buddy, or lived in their car.
So that's what I'm saying, right? What fighter has not lived homeless at one point, right? And this is sort of what I'm trying to emphasize here with this part of the video right here.
His whole entire storyline of being homeless is an absolute fraud. Okay, now, what fighter coming up is not homeless? Do you know how many fighters that I've known growing up and seeing around gyms in California, all throughout Sacramento, lived in gyms, or not only that, lived with a buddy, or lived in their car just to try and get a fight or try to get some training in? bodybuilders in Venice Beach sort of had the same story. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes to mind. Not even that. In the fighting world, Ronda Rousey comes to mind, right? She talks about being homeless, but man, look at your mom. She's a doctor or whatever, and you come from a very privileged background. So with that in mind, I really don't feel bad for any of these people talking about, oh, well, I was homeless or this and that. That's just a God honest truth. And look, I know a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, you know what, Joe Pyfer could beat you behind or this and that. Bro, understand this, right? Anybody who trains mixed martial arts knows that you can't just go and knock somebody out on the spot just because you have more of an accolades than the next guy or more accomplished than the next guy. Anybody who's trained or has sparred with other people know that it's a lot more complicated than that. And you know what? Here's another thing. If you want to talk about harming one person or another in the streets, guess what? Fighting is not the only thing that I do. Mixed martial arts or training in mixed martial arts or Muay Thai is not the only.
I didn't know that's a California thing. And Arnold doing gay what? Oh man, I don't, no way. Not Arnold. Not the homie Arnold. No way. Are you serious? Yo. I don't know, man. Arnold doesn't strike me as a guy like that, right? I mean, he comes across as like, you know, a real man's man. And, you know, believe it or not, he's inspired a lot of fighters, right? Obviously, very different in the training that he does in comparison to, let's say, you know, what fighters have to train with. But his work ethic and his drive is ultimately what is the inspiration to many fighters. Cheeseburger says, what's up, bro? Shout out to Cheeseburger, man. How are you? Yes, he was 100%. It has been said by multiple sources. So here's the thing, right? Where are these videos? Because you know how Oscar De La Hoya has a video of him, you know, doing X, Y, and Z, right? Where are the videos of him doing that? He says it was early on when he first got to California. Yes, I'm going to California. I'm going to do what Californians do. Okay? I'm going to do this thing where people, you know, do each other. And no, he says there's no videos from back in the 70s. Okay, so you're saying that he performed it live for a bunch of people. Is that what you mean? That's interesting. I got to look that up, man. You know, that is, that sounds like a very interesting story.
Only thing that I would do, and the other elements that I'll bring along with it. So that's that. So understand this. Joe Pyfer is a fraud for claiming that he's homeless or this and that, and he wants the world to feel bad for him. Now, this has nothing to do with how he's going to do against Kelvin Gastelum. In fact, speaking of Kelvin Gastelum, I think there's a lot to take into this fight, being that, hey, it's a 50-50 fight. Joe Pyfer has been on a hot streak coming into this fight, and Kelvin Gastelum, well, you know what? He's sort of a shell of his old self right now, right? Coming off of a loss with Jack Hermanson and a unanimous decision back last year in February, then comes back and beats Mark.
Okay, Marty, that I could believe. He said, yes, it was like naked postings and stuff for rich guys. He says, I don't know if he actually was doing, okay, that makes more sense. I think that makes a lot more sense because there's a lot of rich weirdos out there that would ask, you know, a prime, you know, bodybuilding champion like Arnold to do something like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Andre Barral in UFC 303 in a first round. By the way, that got performance of the night. And then prior to that, he had a technical submission, a triangle choke against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and then knocks out Gerald Mershon. So he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. Now, what about in comparison to, let's say, Kelvin Gastelum? Let's see where Kelvin Gastelum has been in the last couple of fights. Okay, so here we go. Daniel Rodriguez, he gets a unanimous decision against him, and that was in Saudi Arabia. Prior to that, he loses to Sean Brady by submission Kimura. No shame in that. Sean Brady just submitted Leon Edwards. I think it's safe to say that Sean Brady is probably one of the best grapplers in the division right now. In fact, probably the best submission artist in the division. So there's no shame in that. He does get a win over Chris Curtis prior to that. Loses to a unanimous decision against Jared Cannonier. How I see this fight, I don't see this going anywhere outside of the scorecards. In other words, I see this going within the distance. 3-round decision maybe for Kelvin Gastelum. Yeah, I think Kelvin Gastelum is going to out-wrestle Joe Pyfer here. I think that, and I'm not just saying that because of what I said earlier, right? Again, I really think that his story, all this homeless stuff, is just a fraud to me, and I think that it's just a virtue signaling way of him trying to garner attention to everybody else. So, with that in mind, let's go over the rest of the cards. Not really a full break.
All right, so obviously let's go back to the future right now. Going back in time now, back into the future, or present time rather. Yeah, man. Look, Joe Pyfer, bro. Joe Pyfer is that guy, bro. He is that guy that likes to, have a pity party, with people, like, right? Like, he likes to, sort of make people, say, oh, you know what, man, I feel sorry for you, Joe, or this and that. Here's more videos that I made on Joe Pyfer about a year ago.
We met in high school. Our daughter is 10 weeks old, very fresh. We had...
Previously, in the last episode, obviously I went after Joe Pyfer for his fraud homeless story. Now, that can be a very subjective opinion. However, that is my opinion. You have your opinions, and everybody's shown that in the comment section below, and thank you for the engagement. But for now, this is a different story, and you'll be very surprised my opinion on this particular matter, but I think that this is going to cause a lot of controversy on the part of Joe Pyfer, so let's run it.
If that's what altitude and elevation is, fuck that country. I will never fight there again. Shithole. Not going back. Don't care if that's offensive to you.
So he obviously doesn't care if that's offensive to anybody. Now look, before that, I could understand what he's saying, but I think what he is trying to do is just trying to be offensive for the sake of being offensive. But other than that, what he is basically saying is, I don't want to fight in high elevation because it's caused me some sort of illness where I had to pull out of the fight. Now, high elevation means Colorado. It means Utah. A whole list of different countries and different regions around the world and in the United States where the UFC competes at. And guess what? He literally means just high elevation, but the fact that he adds on S-hole country, I don't care if you're offended or this and that, I think that's going to garner a lot of attention. Just like my last video, it garnered a lot of attention. And guys, here's something you got to understand. This is what YouTube is about. YouTube is about garnering attention. Now, is it really on the path of integrity to use certain emotive languages or to provoke a certain demographics of people or this and that? Maybe not, but guess what? It absolutely garners attention. Let's use the Colby Covington example. He was about to get cut from the UFC. He had a boring style because he was a wrestler, even though he was winning, but they were going to cut him anyway until he decided he was going to go cut that notorious promo where he went after Brazil. He went after different opponents and different former training partners of his, and then created this whole character, which, by the way, at the time, obviously was within the first years of Donald Trump's presidency, and as a result, he decided, you know what, I'm going to run with this controversial figure. Was probably one of the first UFC fighters to meet Trump at the White House, probably the only fighter at that time to meet Trump at the White House. So it kind of shows you that he was doing something correct. Now, with this particular instance with Joe Pyfer, right, I think that it's going to garner some negative attention, but positive effects. So, for example, maybe they're going to reschedule this fight with Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum is of Mexican descent. He's going to have something to say about this particular matter at hand. Now, where are they going to fight? Probably not in Mexico due to the request of Joe Pyfer. The elevation in Guadalajara, which, by the way, a fight that is announced for UFC's Noche in September, has an elevation of 5,000. Guadalajara, 5,000. Mexico City, 7,000. So still a high elevation. I don't think that he's going to want to compete in those circumstances. However, the controversy behind it, I think, garners even more attention. And in the fact of the matter that he decided to pull out due to an illness, I think many people were very upset. And, you know, anytime anybody pulls out of a fight, they always blame the fighter that pulls out, even though they may have some severe issues that really warrants their pullout. But in this case, here's something you got to understand. If you're offended by what anybody says in YouTube or in mixed martial arts culture, period, get out. Look, the pendulum swings both ways. In other words, if you are one of these people that are free speech absolutists, understand that it goes both ways. It's not just for the right-wing guys. It's not just for the Muslim guys. It's not just for the left-wing guys. It's for everybody to be as vehemently, as offensive as possible as they want, all for the sake of entertainment. Now, with that in mind, let us play this video once again to remind you what Joe Pyfer had to say about Mexico.
If that's what altitude and elevation is, fuck that country. I will never fight there again. Shithole. Not going back. Don't care if that's offensive to you. If that's what altitude and elevation is, fuck that country. I will never fight there again.
All right, so I kind of wanted to address that part right there, right? This is sort of like this pushback that a lot of people have with woke culture. And I understand it, right? Because, sometimes, people mislabel racism. Okay, I understand that. But if you're going out of your way to say, well, this is an S-hole country, I never want to come back. I mean, isn't it really borderlining the aspect of really purposely trying to, offend someone? And he literally said it. I don't care if you're offended. Okay, now it's one thing to say, well, you know what? I have grievances with this particular country. I have grievances with this particular way of life. All right. But if you go out of your way and you say, well, I don't really care if you're offended or not. Okay, then obviously I think your whole entire prerogative is to be as offensive as humanly possible because of whatever X, Y, and Z reason you have. Right? So speaking of racism, another thing that I want to talk about right now is, I want to talk about the economy right now, right? So, yeah, we're going to talk about the economy right now. So, I want to play this video of Andrew Tate real quick. Let me show you guys this video of Andrew Tate. I played this earlier, right? Just so you guys can understand in context for those of you that just joined the chat. So, let me see here. Okay, so why the U.S. economy is collapsing. Let's talk about it, right? I want you to hear this video first, okay, with Andrew Tate right here.
Inflation is so much worse than you think it is, and I'm going to... Inflation is so much worse than you think it is, and I'm going to tell you why. The primary reason it's so much harder to live is not because the currency's devalued. It's not because everything's more expensive. It's because the standard which is expected or which is required for you to have...
Have I ever fought at an outdoor venue? Yes, Victory, I have. Yes, it was a kickboxing match at the Cal Expo area. Yeah, that was an outdoor event. Yes.
A life worth living has gone up exponentially.
You know what? I can't take him seriously either. Here's the thing about Andrew Tate, right? I don't take him seriously with everything. I certainly don't take him seriously as a Muslim, right? And it's certainly not with, Islamic rhetoric in any kind of way. However, there's, what they say, a broken clock is correct. How many times in a day? That's Andrew Tate in a nutshell.
10 or 15 years ago, you could have a normal, nice house next to the bad neighborhood, and you'd be safe. Your children would be okay. your woman could walk around at night. As soon as the sun went down, she didn't have to hide and cower with an AK-47. But nowadays, the nice neighborhood next to the bad neighborhood is also a bad neighborhood because society is decaying. So you have to live in the best neighborhood, meaning it is extremely expensive to live there. That is the true inflation, not the price of the house, not the fact that the dollar's devalued, the fact that you need to be able to afford such expensive things to have the life you previously had on a fraction of the budget. To be safe, you must live in the best possible, most expensive, ultra-exclusive millionaire enclaves. That is the only way you are safe, to walk around without a firearm. And that is the true cost of inflation. It's the same with everything. It's the same with even showing off. I remember back in the day, if someone's parents, 10, 15 years ago in England, if someone's parents shopped in Waitrose, we'd say, wow, his parents shop in Waitrose. He's got Waitrose food. They're rich. If their dad drove a BMW or you knew someone with a BMW, they were considered a successful, rich, wealthy man. Now nobody gives this shit if you have a BMW. A BMW means nothing. For you to turn the same number of heads you would have turned in a 45,000-pound Porsche Cayman 15 years ago, for you to drive down the street and be considered the same level of winner for 45,000 pounds in a Porsche Cayman in 2010, you now need to drive a Koenigsegg Jesko or a Bugatti Chiron for 5 million pounds. I had a Cayman. I'm talking from experience. In 2010, I drove a Porsche and was considered a winner. Everyone used to talk about my Porsche. The entire city did. All the girls used to look. It was a big deal. And now, in Bucharest, Romania, the poorest country in Europe, I drive a $5 million car and get the same level of attention. That is the inflation. The inflation is not the 45,000 pounds or the 5 million pounds. The inflation is for you to attract the same amount of social recognition, the same amount of status that you used to get for 50 grand now costs 5 million. For you to get the same amount of safety you used to get for a $200,000 house now costs 2 million because you need a $2 million house. Everything is decaying at a rate now where it has become ultra expensive to compete at all. Inflation is so much worse than you think it is, and I'm going to tell you why.
He's right about everything, okay? He's absolutely right about everything, okay? Despite significant inflationary pressures, okay? The high national debt, cooling job growth, the U.S. economy has not collapsed yet, okay? Not yet, though. Though nearly 3/5 of America felt it was a recession in late 2025, okay? Risks include high interest rates, trade deficits, and debt-driven consumption, yet the economy has continued to grow. Let me show you a video that sort of explains this.
Which, according to a study conducted by the Kiel Policy Institute, have overwhelmingly been paid for by regular consumers. The report tracked the end price of 25 million transactions and found that foreign exporters were absorbing around 4% of the costs, with the remaining 96% being passed through to households. So yeah, individually we are importing less, while paying more for it. It's not great, but it still is not the collapse that a lot of pundits might have predicted. The reality is that it's just too early to tell. The American economy is not invincible, but it is both very large and very privileged. The size of our consumer and financial markets mean that things are not going to play out as quickly as they would in most other countries that are a lot easier for foreign institutions to move away from when things look risky. We also have some of the most widespread and entrenched agreements, alliances, partnerships, commitments, engagements, and even just good old understandings with almost every major other economy worth mentioning. These have all been tested, clearly, but no matter how hard we try, they won't fall apart overnight. Now, in the short term, that's good, because it means we have time to see things going wrong. But it also means that things will take a lot longer to get back if other countries, investors, and customers start trying to work around us rather than with us. Now, it certainly doesn't help that a lot of these decisions are being made by people who won't be around to see the consequences of them. But go and watch this video next to find out how the boomers are slowly losing their long-held grip on power.
So there it is. Long story short, if you live in America, you have no excuse to be broke, okay? That's just really what it is. You have no excuse to be broke because there's a lot of economic opportunities here. You just have to find exactly what that is. So the economic outlook, okay? Projections indicate the boom session or the boom recession where the economy grows despite negative sentiments and high costs of living. So in other words, the cost of living can still be high, but at the same time, it's still a growing economy. Okay, let's talk about the debt and inflation, okay? The national debt has reached 100% of its GDP. Okay, what exactly does that mean? Okay, levels not seen since World War II, putting pressure on financial systems, inflation, partially from COVID era stimulus. Okay, peaked at 9.1% in 2022, causing the Federal Reserve to raise its rates. All right, what about the sector's disruptions? Okay, for example, the agriculture is struggling due to low crop prices, okay? Labor shortages and the trade on tariffs has its impact. Now, what about employment? While job losses were recovered by 2021, job creation slowed down in 2025, 2026, leading to a tightening market. Now, potential triggers. Okay, raising the debt, serving costs, potential bank instability, and global economic factors are frequently cited as risks for future downturn. All right, let me show you this video right here that sort of explains that right here.
The way you see an idea in your mind. Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business.
There's no question that on the surface, America's economic performance has been impressive. It's set to grow faster than any developed other country for the 9th quarter in a row. But it all seems to be based on a far more fragile foundation than most people realize. Decades of cheap credit, trillion-dollar deficits, and a financial system built on borrowed money have left it exposed to even the smallest shock. If the safe bets like agriculture and manufacturing start collapsing, the impact won't stay contained. It'll spread through the same financial channels that connect every bank, fund, and business in the country. It wouldn't be the first time this has happened. In 2008, it wasn't exotic tech startups or speculative AI projects that brought the system down. It was the most boring, reliable investment in the world: housing. Today, the setup isn't all that different. Only this time, instead of suburban mortgages, it's farm loans, factory closures, and tech companies built on leverage that could light the fuse. Now, I want to talk about one of Trump's key tariffs, a 50% tariff on copper imports. Trump is obsessed with copper. He views copper as 100% essential. It's not just a strategic metal, it's now an edge in geopolitics. Why the urgency? Copper equals compute plus defense. Control copper and you control AI infrastructure and defense production, a huge importance to this administration. Today, China dominates refining. We're seeing something we've never seen before. The government has even started taking stakes in copper companies in an effort to control supply chains. This truly is historical, and we don't think the market has quite grasped this. And that is why we're extremely bullish on copper, and in particular today's sponsor, Copper Giant Resources, ticker CGNT on the TSXV. This company owns 100% of the Macoa copper project, located in Colombia's Andean Belt, one of the most copper-rich geological areas in the world. The resource estimate is 2.1 million tons, which at 11,000 a ton is worth $23.1 billion, and the company is valued at $31 million. I'll say that again, 31 million. Obviously, all the copper is still in the ground, but the potential is absurd, and that's why the US has even begun talking with Ian Harris, the CEO of Copper Giant. And after the meeting, Ian said this: they want refined copper made in the United States, and there is a potential opportunity for Copper Giant to ship ore to the US. This is huge, and it matters more than ever now with policy, capital, national security, and Colombia's upcoming election cycles. And Copper Giant could be positioned perfectly to benefit from Trump's need for copper supply. Personally, this could be the #1 stock right now, and the timing couldn't be better. As always, do your own due diligence.
Spring. All right, so that kind of explains, why a lot of people think that the U.S. economy is going to collapse, right? So, to, kind of further elaborate on this a little bit. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so let's talk about some potential vulnerabilities to watch for, right? Experts highlight several cracks that could lead to a deeper crisis. Okay, #1, the AI bubble. Okay, over investments in artificial intelligence infrastructure may lead to a sharp correction if expected productivity gains do not materialize. Okay, so watch out for AI. Trade policies. Significant tariffs and trade tensions are creating headwinds for manufacturing and contributing to higher consumer costs. Okay, labor market weakness. While the employment rate remains historically low at 4.4% as of February 2026, it's been trending upwards from previous lows. Okay, so for official economic indicators, you can check the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis for GDP data or Bureau of Labor Statistics for current employment figures. Now, yeah, so that's the truth of the economy right there. What I'm trying to say is that no matter how bad the U.S. economy is doing right now, there's still opportunity out there. All right? So with that in mind, listen, guys, that is all that I have for this one right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah. Let me read one last comment here. He says, yeah, one income per household used to be normal. Yes, that used to be normal, Marty. Now, I mean, look, it's creating a whole lot of, mess that I don't think we should be in, right? But still, people out there are living on 2-income households, and they're trying to get by through that, and that's unfortunately the only way that you can really get anywhere today. Alistair, the Fox Furry, says Tate is built like Mega Blocks. Alistair also okay, yeah, a literal brickhead. Okay, yes. All right, guys. Well, with that in mind, that is all that I have for this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah.